Welcome to Caffeinated Flicks.
where we drink coffee and celebrate diverse directors.
I'm Celeste.
And I'm Kenzie.
What concert are you guys going to?
We're going to go see Lacuna Coil tonight. So,
Oh, I have no idea who that is, but that's exciting. Is it just you and Richard?
yeah. They're an Italian metal band. This will be the third time that we've seen them.
An Italian metal band? Oh.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, like symphonic metal.
Oh, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we saw them when we were dating, and then once when we were engaged, and now that we're married, we're seeing them again. It didn't necessarily, like, we didn't plan that. It just happened to be like that, and I think it's great.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm super excited, and I feel like I'm just recently coming into my like full goth mode, and I just wish that I could have figured that out like sooner, but I guess it only took until I was almost 30 for me to figure that out, but whatever.
You never stop growing. I mean, you never stop learning things about yourself, so there you go.
True story. I mean, I kind of always knew that I was part goth. It just, I think part of it was money and resources.
Wait, what? What do you mean? Why do you need money to be goth?
to buy the clothes.
Oh, I mean, you're gonna buy clothes anyways, aren't you? Why is goth clothes more expensive?
Depending on the clothes. Like,
you're funny.
I mean,
you know what? I remember when I went through my like phase of wanting to be more. I don't think I was ever goth, but anyways, it was a Hot Topic thing. They were not cheap. I will say that.
Yeah. Hot Topic clothes are not cheap under any circumstances. I remember I think I used to only buy their jewelry because that's the only thing I could ever afford. But I did have a skirt at one point in time, and I had a bright green plaid skirt, and I don't know why I got a pleated skirt. I don't know how to iron. Like, so needless to say, that pleat did not say pleated.
Yeah. I think the reason I wanted to get like because I went for like checkered pants, and I think it was
that was all the rage.
Shakira's concert though. My mom bought like the CD for it. We didn't see her in person, and like in her concert she wore like checkered like red and black pants, and I couldn't find red, so I got white and black, and I loved that.
That's amazing.
That's what inspired me, not actual like goth culture.
I mean, to be fair, Hot Topic really does, because they're still around. They do like cater to so many different looks. You know, you got your scene kids, you got your Disney. There's so much Disney in Hot Topic. You know, you've got your metalheads, you've got your anime fans, you've got, you know, so many different types of people and in different flavors and styles. So
yeah, there's definitely like a ton of anime stuff in there. I never go, but I went like every so often. I'll go in for like a gift, and there's just too much going on for me. Like it's like it's getting smaller and more crowded. It's like they're trying to pack more and more into that place. I'm like, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, between that and Spencer's, you're just like sensory overload at all times.
Oh yeah.
Well, cool. So today is our 10th episode. We finally made it to double digits.
Yay! Oh my God. Why do I feel like we just started, but at the same time, it feels like we've been doing this forever?
I mean, it's been a couple of months now. Does that count?
Oh, yeah, it has. Because it started in April. I guess, like, technically, because we only been, like, letting episodes out technically for, like, a month, but
yeah. Yep. We've been working on this for at least a couple of months since your birthday. You know, we came up with this.
Oh, yeah, the idea.
We've been working on it. Yeah. Yep. So we've been working on it a while. But I did just want to share some love for our listeners so far. And I'm so excited about it. Our hosting platform can show us where people are listening in from, including some distant planets. So I thought that was very funny. But while I have yet to see any Martians tuning in, I'm enthralled to see that we've got some folks listening in from Illinois, Texas, or sometimes how we say Tejas, Oregon,
Like,
like in Spanish.
oh, okay.
In Spanish, sometimes it's pronounced Tejas.
Yeah. It's just weird hearing it come from me. I'm like, what did she say?
I can be, multifaceted, I just think it's fun to say. Like, I love to say different words in Spanish,
Just randomly. I like how this sounds.
Yeah. I do the same thing with French. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. So.
That's true. French just sounds nice.
It does. And sometimes it sounds gross, just like everything else. Some words just sound gross in French.
What words? I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm trying to think of words in my head right now, but I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
Like there are some that just don't roll off the tongue real well.
Oh, okay.
Don't know.
Okay, gotcha.
But back to the states. So we've got Oregon, Washington, Minnesota, Virginia, Iowa, North Carolina, and a few other U.S. states. And then beyond the U.S., we actually have some folks who listen to us from outside of the U.S., including some folks in Egypt, India, and Australia. All of those are places that I hope to go to someday, especially Australia. Celeste, I'm pretty sure you know that I've been obsessed with Australia forever. Forever.
You're alone with that one. All I can no.
Like I was thinking about this.
Oh no, you're good. Go ahead.
I'm obsessed with Australia. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm like, people who are obsessed with Britain or England are called Anglophiles. People who are obsessed with France, speaking of French, are called like Francophiles. What do they call people like me who are obsessed with Australia?
Nothing, because nobody's obsessed with Australia.
I am that person. If anybody knows, please write in caffeinatedflicks@gmail.com.
Oh no, I couldn't. There's just like too many critters and creatures out there, and I hear that kangaroos fight back and that it's hot. I don't want to go from one hot place to another and then it's humid. I'm okay. Stick over here.
You don't go near the critters that can punch you or kill you. You have to be strategic, just like here, Like, you remember that time that we heard that rattler when we went out for a hike? And I was like, okay, we're just going to go around it. I know exactly where this snake is located based on its sound, and we're just going to go around it, And you just do that, just on the other side of the world. And then 2, it's not hot there all the time. They're winter, summertime there. So we just go during, summertime, our time, and it's winter there. So it's perfect.
There you go.
I like it.
Alrighty. Did we talk about what we were drinking? I don't think I mentioned
Not
it.
yet.
Did you mention yours? Okay. All right. What are you drinking, Kenzie? Or what did you drink this morning?
So I decided I've been on a drinking at home kick lately. And so today I decided to brew a pot of coffee. And have you ever heard of Death Wish coffee?
Nope.
Going back with the goth theme still. I actually heard of them back when Richard and I first started dating because he was obsessed with coffee. And so I got him like a gift when we first started dating because I was desperate. And I wanted him to like me very much.
Oh my God. How brave of you to admit that. You're like, I was desperate.
I was 19. I was like me, please. Oh,
yeah. I forgot young when we started dating our spouses. We were babies.
I know. And now I look at it, I'm just like, oh gosh, girl,
I know.
Take
Cringe.
some time.
I know. How in the world? Think of it.
Seriously. I know my dad listens to this, and I know that he told me like many times, he's like, it's not likely that you'll be with this person forever. And yeah, Dad, I know. I know. And I will tell any other person who is under the age of 26, just focus on yourself before you focus on anybody else. You'll be better off for it. But
Great life, man.
beyond that, back to coffee.
I just got deep.
Back to coffee. So I ordered Death Wish coffee for him, and I sent him some Death Wish coffee, and it's supposedly like the highest caffeinated coffee beans you can get. So I had some Death Wish coffee in my coffee today, and then I had some Kauai vanilla macadamia nut coffee, and so I blended the two, and it was quite delicious. So what about you?
Delicious. Ooh, oh my God. I've been so bad lately. I've been getting coffee out every single day. I'm the opposite. I need to start.
Who are you?
I know. I feel terrible about it, but at the same time, F it. You know that?
I think we just knew, and the universe was like, we need to balance it out here.
Well, there you go. We're just the yin to the yang to each other, or whatever it's called. Whatever you
exactly.
say it. Yeah, I got a triple blonde espresso from Starbucks this morning.
Ooh.
I know.
Look at you getting just espresso. What?
It was delicious. Mm-hmm. I put my own splash of soy milk in it when I get home.
Okay. But still,
I know.
It's espresso. Perfect. My gosh. No chai, no matcha.
I still put white mocha in it.
Oh, okay. You missed that part.
I still need a little sweetness in it, but by a little, I got like the sweetest.
You mean the sweetest syrup you can get? Yeah. It's not even a syrup, technically. It's a sauce.
It's a sauce. I'm sassy. What can I say?
Oh my God. Yeah. We need that on a shirt. You're getting that on a shirt. I'm saucy. Oh my gosh. So, as we alluded to last week, this week we're doing Sense and Sensibility, right?
Yes, that is the movie we will be covering today by Mr. Ang Lee. And this is the first film of his that we are doing. And let's see. So a little info on Ang Lee. He was born in 1954 in, I hope I'm pronouncing it here, Pingtung, Taiwan. He graduated from the National Taiwan College of Arts in 1975. He came to the U.S. to receive a Bachelor's of Fine Arts degree in theater direction at the University of Illinois, and then later on a master's degree in film production at NYU. Mr. Lee was 37 years old when he directed his very first feature film. Some of his other projects or more well-known other projects are Life of Pi, The Wedding Bouquet, and Brokeback Mountain. He actually became the first Asian to win an Academy Award for the Best Director for Brokeback Mountain, and then later on proceeded to win the same award for The Life of Pi.
At some point in time, we're going to have to do Brokeback Mountain. And I've been avoiding that movie for so long because I heard that it's so sad.
I've never seen it. You haven't either?
I haven't either. Nope.
I've never seen it. Yeah.
It's going to break me, but we're going to have to watch it. Gosh. And I'm excited to watch it, but I'm also sad to watch it. But I'm just going to have to buckle in, you know?
Mm-hmm. I saw Life of Pi. I was forced to watch that one. I didn't want to watch it because I was scared that the tiger was going to die. Aww. But it was in the same my film class at GCC. It was one of the films that we had to watch. And before I was forced to watch it, I Googled if the tiger died. So I can mentally prepare myself.
Does the tiger die?
Do you want to know?
Yes.
I mean, technically no, but it's kind of like a twist ending. Ooh. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, you know. Anyways, but yeah, you'll have to watch it. It's visually very stunning movie, but it's a lot. Oh, it's rough. It's another one.
This morning, did you ever see the movie The Neverending Story?
No.
Ah, good Lord. So Richard and I were talking about the Kentucky Derby and like how they're putting down all these horses for like leg injuries, and that's like a really common thing. And in The Neverending Story, the saddest thing that ever happens in this movie is the fact that basically this horse gives up essentially and ends up dying because it goes into like this bog of eternal despair or something like that. And so basically it becomes depressed and dies. It just like gives up
I don't
on
want to
life.
watch that.
It's a really good movie. That is the saddest thing. And it has stayed with me ever since. And I think I was like 5 or 6 when I watched it. And it stays with you forever.
Those are the worst. That just like, oh no, I can't.
I saw this thing on Instagram too, where very similar in the similar vein of like animals, you know, watching people die in horror movies. Basically, you're just so excited to see it, but the second that you see like a dog die in a horror
Yeah.
movie, like you're just outraged.
It's the worst. I can't. I really want to watch the new Guardians of the Galaxy, but people say it's hard to watch because of the, you know, the animal abuse that occurs in it.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
Like the raccoon, I think they did like some testing on it or whatever, and it had like other rodent friends, I guess. But people said it was really sad that they weren't expecting it to be so emotional. And so they're like, prepare yourself, especially if you're an animal lover. I'm like, oh my God.
Basically, we just need like a universe mesh between Legally Blonde and Guardians of the Galaxy and have like a Legally Blonde 3.
Yes.
Where Elle Woods comes in and defends of the galaxy.
That would be interesting. That would. Oh no! But yeah, I really want to watch it, but I don't think I can handle it. I'm already emotional on my own. I don't need to add on.
You just have to be ready for that time when you're ready to cry. You know, you have to be prepared.
I haven't had a good cry in a while. Let's watch this.
Right? Exactly. when you're ready for that time, that's when you pull it out.
Now the cast, because it's got a stellar cast going on here. We've got Mrs. Emma Thompson herself, Kate Winslet. We have Tom Wilkinson, who lasted like a whole minute, I think, in the movie. He had like 1 minute of screen time before he was a goner. We've got Harriet Walter, Gemma Jones, Mr. Hugh Grant himself. And then I accidentally cropped it out, but what is his name? Professor Snape, Kenzie.
Alan Rickman?
We got Alan Rickman. I'm surprised he wasn't towards the top of the cast members.
But I know. I think it's because he comes later in the movie.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Oh, yeah, I think they do it in order of,
Yeah. Because Hugh Laurie's also in there, too. And he's also further down.
Yeah.
So.
My bad. Okay. Anyways. But yeah, so all-star cast going on in this classic. And then do you want to do the 10 out of 10 rating?
Yeah, but before we do that, I'm sitting here, I'm like looking at, you know, this cast of casts. And I'm thinking like when they were going to do what is it called? 2003 Christmas movie. So many of these actors.
Oh, Love Actually.
Love Actually, yes. When they were making Love Actually, they just looked at this cast and were like, how many of these people can we actually put in here before they think that we're just remaking this movie?
Pretty much, yeah. They basically took the same cast and then just made it a Christmas movie.
And then added a few extra characters for color.
Yeah.
You know?
Just to diversify it a bit.
Just a smidge. Just a smidgen. All right. So the 10 out of 10. Jane Austen would be proud. In my opinion, this is the quintessential Jane Austen film adaptation. One of the all-time great period pieces. If only Austen were here to see that one of her most famous novels would one day be turned into one of the great American classics of all time. I believe she would have loved this beautiful adaptation of her work. Thank you to Ang Lee, Emma Thompson, and of course Miss Austen herself for creating this beautiful story and these iconic, beloved characters.
That was sweet.
There.
Alrighty, now for the 1 out of 10. On IMDb, it was so hard. Like there was, I want to say like 3 or 4 1 out of 10 ratings. And this was the longest one. It was like, this is the longest one. The other ones were like one sentence.
that's honestly high praise for this movie.
Right?
That means that people actually watch this all the way through.
Right? Alrighty, so 1 out of 10, unwatchable. High production value, but can't make up for the endless boredom this movie exudes. I remember feeling like that when I gave it a first shot in 1995. Nothing has changed 25 years later. Unwatchable in the extreme. That's it. That's my review.
I think it had about 4 sentences too
Yeah.
long, so it could have been 2 sentences.
I mean, nothing has changed 25 years later. What did they expect to change?
Their own point of view, maybe their ability to put a sentence together. Who knows?
Oh gosh. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get into the notes. So we open to Mr. Dashwood on his deathbed, letting his son, John, know that by law his estate will be left to him, and makes him promise that he will take care of the girls. The girls, of course, being his daughters.
Now, hold on. I'm sorry. I got to stop you real quick. So these are his dad's daughters. They're his half-sisters.
Yes.
And so they're technically not like his full sisters. They're a different marriage's spawn. Yeah. So that was it.
Okay. John discusses with his wife, Fanny, what he will be giving to his stepsisters. And Fanny's completely appalled at the fact that he has to help them. She's not a very nice lady. So originally he says he'll give them 3,000 pounds and proceeds to just continue changing his mind to a lower and lower amount. They ultimately decide to just give them nothing. That 500 pounds, was it a year, right? 500 a year.
Yeah, a year.
Would do. Yeah. And that really they would have enough to give them, I think she said.
It was so funny because he makes him promise that he'll help with the girls' dowries because we're back at a time when you had to pay a husband to take the woman off your hands because we're such nuisances. He does none of that, obviously. Yeah. But what's funny is like I can't decide if I'm on Fanny's side or if I'm not on Fanny's side because ultimately she is a villain, right? But she's also a woman at this time frame where she also has to make out for herself.
Yeah.
She's like, I also have no money unless he has money. And so I got to make sure that he has money and to make sure I have money.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, I do hate you. You are a bit of a villain. But at the same rate, can I really fault you for the position and predicament that you've been put in because of the society and the fact that you can't even make your own money?
Exactly. Girls got to live.
Girls got to eat, you know? Girls got to eat. She's still a witch, but that's neither here nor there.
Really? She was forced to be a witch.
She was. They forced her hand.
Right? Oh, no. Then we see Marianne, who's played by Kate. She's playing extremely depressing music on the piano. And we see Eleanor come in, who's played by Emma. And she asks if she can play something less sad because their mom has been crying nonstop. Of course, this woman just lost her husband. And then she does change the music, but she plays something else that's just as sad. So kind of defeated the purpose of her changing the song.
I did love that part. Yeah. She was like, yeah, sure, I'll go ahead and change it. And it's like an even more minor key.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. So Miss Dashwood, played by Gemma, is packing up her things and complaining about the fact that they are being kicked out of their own home. Miss Dashwood is a mess, and Eleanor kind of takes charge and says that she'll inquire about finding them a new home. Eleanor goes to the backyard treehouse to tell Margaret to get ready for John and Fanny. Margaret asks why they're coming to live here if they already have a house in London. She tells her that houses go from father to son because it is the law.
Now, I have to say, this treehouse is like the sickest treehouse I've ever seen. Like, it looks like one of those curated claymation, like fairy houses that you see on like a miniature scale, but brought to life in like a treehouse model. And I'm just like, holy crap.
Yeah.
This thing is amazing. Like, I never had a treehouse.
I haven't either.
to be fair, you need trees for that, and we don't really have too many of those
True,
here in
yeah.
Arizona. But
A house and a cactus.
that would be very interesting. How do you get inside a cactus house?
I don't want to know.
I don't either. You would be safe though. That is.
I guess so.
You were worried about some kangaroo coming to punch you. You'd be safe.
There you go.
But yes,
no.
so absolutely sick treehouse.
Yeah, it is.
And then what I love about Margaret's character, she is 11-ish in this movie and in the story. And she has this like dream of like feminism, like new age feminism that kind of comes through her throughout this whole movie, where she climbs a treehouse, which probably wasn't really common for women of that era.
Yeah.
Later on in the movie, you know, she learns about maps. She's called captain later. You know, she has really take charge for a little girl, and it's not discouraged either. And so I really enjoy that part about seeing her character go through the motions, you know. Meanwhile, her older sisters, really the only thing that we can say about them is really more so their whole purpose in this movie is to get married. But Margaret, I really enjoyed because she has a little bit of a different path. And it's probably because she's 11 and she's not quite yet of marrying age.
That's what I was thinking too. Yeah. Because she's still young. There's still time to mold her into what society expects her to be. You know what I mean? Maybe they're like, okay, maybe we'll actually let her be a child and a kid and have her own thoughts. It's very kind of them.
Before she has to become an amiable young lady.
Yes. Oh no. So we see Eleanor addresses the servants to let them know they will only be able to take 2 of them, and ensures that the new Mrs. Dashwood will be fair and generous. And then Fanny and John are approaching in the carriage, and Fanny's complaining to John that she's concerned about how long it will take for them to move out. So she wants them out ASAP.
Which
I know. At their first dinner together, it is very quiet and awkward. Eleanor tries to break the tension with some small talk. So Fanny ends up telling him that their brother will be coming to stay. John awkwardly says, as long as that's okay with them, because I guess he kind of feels that they're overstepping, but really, in reality, it's their place. So Mrs. Dashwood tells him, this is now your house. Eleanor is wrapping gifts for the servants when Marianne barges in complaining that Fanny is asking for the key to the silver cabinet. She tells her that she needs to do better with Fanny and that she hasn't said a word to her all week, or in a week. Marianne says that she has. She said yes, and she said no.
I will say I did laugh audibly at that.
Yeah.
There are quite a few moments of comical gold in this, honestly. And I'm not sure if it is, because I've actually never read Sense and Sensibility. Don't at me. But I don't know if it's because of what Jane Austen's actually written or Emma Thompson's version of Sense and Sensibility when she was writing the screenplay for it.
At another quiet meal, Marianne walks in and says, "Good morning, Fanny." So she makes it known that she has officially said more than 2 words to her. And she asks her if she made sure that all of the silver was there and accounted for. Eleanor quickly steps in to avoid any more tension and asks when her brother will arrive. Fanny asks Mrs. Dashwood if Margaret can give up her room for Edward because hers has a better view. Edward, played by Hugh Grant, arrives and he definitely feels the tension in the room. They're alone in the stairway, and Fanny tells Edward how these girls are all spoiled and uncivil. He tells them they've literally just lost their father, but she says that's not an excuse.
I have no words, honestly.
Right. We can only justify her actions so much. Edward then notifies the ladies that he's found Margaret because she's been missing all day. And Eleanor accompanies him to go fetch her. Edward is his charming self, and when Eleanor sees him playing with Margaret, we see her start to develop feelings for him.
What's really cute, so this is when we find out a little bit more about Margaret and her adept skills for maps.
Mhm.
And because how they draw her out is she's hiding underneath the table, and he knows that she's hiding underneath the table in this massive library.
Mhm.
And he asks, is the Nile in Brussels or
Mhm.
something of that nature? And so him and Eleanor start to have this back and forth about different places of geography, knowing that what they're saying is incorrect,
Mhm.
to try
To
and
lure
lure.
her out.
Yep. And it works. And she's just like, what's wrong with you guys? Of course that's not right. It's
My
very
favorite
cute.
is when they're playing swords and then she
Yes.
stabs the F out of him. And he's just like, oh, and falls on the floor. She's like, did I hurt you? Or something along those lines. When clearly she knocked the wind out of him. And he's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm good.
He kind of gets up, slumps over. He's like, no, we're fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Eleanor is watching Marianne play the piano. And Edward approaches and he's watching Eleanor just in awe of her. He gives her his handkerchief with his initials and asks her to show him the treehouse. Fanny sees the two of them walking and does not like what she sees. Shocker.
I can't figure out how somebody can dislike their in-laws so much for not doing anything to them. I'm like trying to figure out what's the backstory, you know?
Yeah. We're not really given one, though, in the movie.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So they're on a stroll, and he's telling Eleanor that he wants a quiet life in the country, but his mom has different plans for him. And they're all in a seating area, and Edward is reading poetry. Marianne is not impressed and lets him know that he needs more passion and proceeds to give this very passionate performance. She then tells him to try again. Poor guy. I felt so bad for him in this scene.
It was so funny. Oh my gosh. This is like theater kid energy.
Yes.
To like a 10.
Yeah,
You're just like,
was.
yo.
It's like chill, girl.
Yeah.
We're in the living room. We're not on Broadway right now.
Exactly. We are not in a production right now. We're not even in rehearsals. Yeah. We are just doing a run through.
Right? Oh gosh. So it looks like the next day, and Marianne informs Mrs. Dashwood of a letter they received from her cousin stating that they have a cottage available for them to stay. I think I skipped over this, but because they're houseless now, they're in search for somewhere to live. So I was like, I swear I mentioned that. Mrs. Dashwood tells Marianne to not inform Eleanor yet because her and Edward have formed an attachment and that it would be cruel to take her away. All of these people are very involved in everybody's relationship and lives in general.
To be fair, they don't have TV. They don't have anything to preoccupy them.
That's true. They need other forms of entertainment.
Very much so. I was thinking about that. I'm like, what would I do if I didn't have TV or a phone? How much more would I like create? How much more would I interact with other people? Probably.
Right.
Or maybe
like, how
not.
would it affect us? Ooh. Probably read more. Probably more social with other people.
Maybe.
I mean,
you'd have to live by them. You would only be social by the people who you live by.
Yeah. Interesting. Who knows? We will never know, probably.
The world may never know.
Alrighty, so Marianne explains that Edward is a pleasant man, but she questions whether he can truly love her because he gave a very unpassionate performance the other night. That's making her question everything.
I mean, if she's got that high of a standard,
yeah, she does.
She's going to be extremely disappointed. Like, this reminds me of just talking to just about any 15-year-old girl, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, everything is just so, like, high. Yeah. Like, everything is, 110% or bust as far as love goes. And then she even mentioned something about Romeo and Juliet. Yeah. And if you're not willing to die for love, then what is it? And I'm just like, I know. Slow your roll, girl. Slow your roll. You're about to be really disappointed.
Right. It's giving like modern day sisters, Anna and Elsa.
Yeah. Oh my. Yeah, very much so. Yep. And poor Elsa, she's got nobody because Disney won't
Right?
give her a lesbian lover.
Poor Elsa. She's gonna remain a seamstress till her dying day.
She's just got to let it go, you know?
Yeah. Oh no. Marianne walks in reading a poem to Eleanor and essentially tells her that she will miss her when she marries Edward, but to not move away too far. Eleanor tells her nothing's happened yet and proceeds to tell her that she does, in fact, have feelings for him. Again, Fanny sees Edward and Eleanor out for a walk, and she tells Mrs. Dashwood that their mother expects their sons to marry well and that she will withdraw financial support if they fail to do so. So then at dinner,
and originally, sorry.
No, you're
originally, when she said that, I thought she was just being Fanny. I thought she was just being like stone cold witch.
I thought she was lying just to
break
them up too. I didn't believe her.
I didn't either. And then we get to the end, and I'm like,
oh, she wasn't lying.
Yep. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
That bridge when we cross it.
Like mother, like daughter, apparently.
Yeah.
So at dinner, Miss Dashwood informs everyone that they will be leaving ASAP. Before they leave, Edward seems as though he's about to express his feelings for Eleanor, but instead, just very awkwardly starts talking about his education.
The look on Eleanor's face, she's just like, oh.
I know, yeah. The letdown and then the confusion.
There's like 7 different emotions that take place in about 30 seconds. Yeah. And you're just like, I get you, girl. I am right there with you.
Right? Oh, no. Alrighty. So then, of course, Fanny, as Fanny does, interrupts them and demands that he leave for London immediately.
Which, of course, only adds to even more confusion.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there are a few men in this movie that have to leave immediately, urgently. Do we ever find out why? I don't think we do. No.
I have absolutely no idea why he left.
I don't.
We never find out why.
Yeah. One of the many mysteries. Alrighty. Mm-hmm. So they're off to their new place, and the ladies arrive at this beautiful cottage. But of course, it's below their standards. They just look completely disgusted with this place. But are you kidding me? Like, that place was gorgeous. I'm like,
I mean, it's gorgeous to us now because we live in an era where we're just like where we are now.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of what to say, and I'm like, it's just not the same. Our houses are constantly falling apart. They're not the beautiful cottages that are, romanticized anymore.
Last decades and centuries. They all look the same. They're all made of drywall.
Right. And stucco. It's fine.
Alrighty. So Sir John and Mrs. Jennings, who were the ones that brought them there, greet them with a carriage full of dogs. I think that was my favorite part of the movie.
I'm not gonna lie. When the carriage full of dogs came out, I thought about you like your house. Like when I come to your house sometimes. But I also thought about Beth's house too, because they've got 5 dogs. Mm-hmm. And so it's always just like a bushel of dogs.
Right? That's just something you don't see in period pieces. People obsessed with dogs. So I loved that.
You almost never see a cat, though.
That's true. Now that I think about it, yeah. I don't think I have. So there's Mrs. Jennings. She is a total gossip. She is a chatty Cathy. She is all up in everybody's business. I think she's my favorite character.
I was going to say, yeah. I'm trying to decide if I aspire to be her one day or not.
So they're having a meal, and Mrs. Jennings is just trying to pry information out of the girls about who Eleanor is romantic with. And then, and Mr. Sir John is just as bad. He's naughty. He's just as bad as her.
I know that he said that Mrs. Jennings is his mother-in-law, but did you get total gay vibes? Like, Sir John Elton vibes.
Oh, you know what? I didn't. I completely forgot that that was his mother in the first one, and I thought it was husband and wife. That's like
No, no, it's his mother. It's his
Yeah.
mother-in-law. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So because I thought they were husband and wife, I didn't, I didn't catch those Sir Elton John vibes, unfortunately. But maybe if I rewatch it, then I'm like, oh, okay.
But it could also be the time period. Who knows? Maybe men could be a little bit more flamboyant, They're the whole reason why we have heels today. They're the whole reason we have makeup today. They're the whole reason why we have wigs today.
Mm-hmm. So Marianne plays piano and sings for everyone. She's trying to, stop them from gossiping about poor Eleanor's lack of love life at this point. If we can even call it that. How long were they there for with them? Everything happens so fast with these people.
Right?
Is it because they have a shorter lifespan that they're just they fall in love in a matter of days?
I think because everything's so scandalous, like you're not supposed to live, you're not actually supposed to date, you're supposed to court.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to court, you're supposed to like have the end goal of being married like within a fortnight, like everything has to have an intention. And you can't do anything without an intention. And so it takes like a week.
Yeah. Marriages are more like transactions here. But
yeah. And you don't like love is, while Jane Austen is like the queen of, this time period's love, that is still a trivial thing for this,
So Marianne is playing the piano for everyone and she's singing when we see Colonel Brandon, which is
Alan Rickman
himself, when he walks in and is just giving googly eyes at her.
Okay, I have another comment.
I thought my notes said Aladdin at first. I was like, what?
That would be a very different movie.
Yes,
if we could take a magic carpet ride out of here. A very different movie. But so I looked it up because I was curious. To me, in my head, Kate Winslet looks as supple as a ripe peach. Like she looks about 16 or 17 at most. But she's actually 20 when this movie comes out.
20?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She's 20 years old when this movie comes out. Alan Rickman is almost 50.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't shy away from the fact that there is an age difference. And there's supposed to be an age difference, as we'll find out soon. But I'm just like, goodness.
Yeah.
Goodness.
He's an old fart. He is.
Well, he passed away. So Alan Rickman died about 7 years ago.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace.
Yes.
He is a treasure. And he was wonderful in this movie. He was excellent in this movie. Absolutely wonderful. And I think that's also something else in this time period too. It's not uncommon for there to be
a massive
age difference. Yeah.
Yeah, I think later on it's mentioned like, oh, he has money. She's beautiful. There you go.
Yep.
Match made in heaven, according to them at that time. Let's see. So, there we go. So Sir John is telling Colonel Brandon that him and Marianne would make the perfect couple. There he goes, getting in everybody's business. They're at like a picnic, and Mrs. Jennings spills the tea about Colonel Brandon's tragic past and tries to play matchmaker. She tries to get them to play a duet, but Marianne is just not having it.
She's like, I don't know how to play any duets, and she storms off.
She's just very blunt. I can't play duets. Goodbye.
She's like, I can't believe he's complaining about his rheumatoidism.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. Like, give him a break. He's trying.
Right? Oh.
I felt so bad for him throughout this whole movie.
I know. I did, too.
So at their cottage, they find a gift of an atlas waiting for them. The one that Edward said that he would deliver himself. I feel like I had more to comment on that, but I guess
And I
not.
was like, clearly he's not there.
Yeah.
But this is where we find out that he kept calling Margaret Captain because it says Captain in the note that he left. And, they're all just extremely disappointed the fact that he's not there. And they can't figure out why he's not there. And we never find out why he wasn't there. We just know that he's not there.
Yeah, we never find out why people are not there. It's a constant thing throughout this movie. So, is what it is. Let's see. So Marianne and Margaret are out for a walk when it starts raining. And Marianne falls very dramatically. She barely tumbled, if that, and happened to twist her ankle. When all of a sudden a man on a horse in the pouring rain approaches. And it looks, I honestly thought Margaret was going to die in this scene because this was my first time watching it. I thought I had seen it before because my mother was obsessed with these movies, but I haven't.
Really?
Yes.
I knew I had never seen it. I also had this threat in my head that Margaret was going to die, but
I thought so too because they set it up like that. The way the scene was shot, it was slow motion, and the horse was I thought the horse was gonna knock her out and break her neck, but she was fine.
Right?
She ended up being totally okay.
Fine. Yep. But then, okay, so we see the man on the horse. I totally thought it was Colonel Brandon at first.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, so he's just following her?
How convenient. No, this is another man that's just randomly following her.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, no. So he approaches, confirms her ankle is not broken, and he carries her home.
I love the way that he does this, though. You can tell that even in, Jane Austen's time, consent was a real thing.
Yes.
Because he asks her, flat out, is it okay if I check to see that your ankle's not broken? And, she is so, turned on, essentially, by this. You can see it all over her face.
Right?
She's so charmed. She's soaked wet, all the way through. But she is so turned on about this man who's just asked for consent to make sure that her ankle's not broken and then carries her home.
I'm sure it helps that the fact that this man was a very attractive man.
He's very hot.
He's very conventionally attractive. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with the sideburns.
Oh, yeah.
But he's very hot.
Yeah.
We definitely need to get a picture of his sideburns on social media for people to see because those were sharp.
Those were rough. Yeah. So, yes, he proceeds to carry her home. And everyone is just swooning over this man. And when he's on his way out, Marianne is she tells her mother to get his name, which is John Willoughby. Marianne's in love with this man. She's already obsessed with him. And she's my favorite. He lifted me as if I weighed no more than a dried leaf.
I wish somebody would lift me like I weighed nothing more than a dried leaf.
No. Can't relate to that.
And nope, not even once.
So yeah, in what seems like 15 minutes, I feel like that happened over the span of 10, 15 minutes. Marianne has already fallen head over heels for Mr. John Willoughby.
I mean, once a man picks you up, then you're a goner,
yeah.
right? That's how it works. That's why in conventional marriages, they have to pick you up and carry you through the threshold right after you get married. That's how you know.
And if they can pick you up and carry you without groaning, it's a plus.
See, we're giving all the fellas all the pointers here.
You're welcome. Oh no. So Sir John the next morning pays the woman a visit. And Marianne just wants to know everything about Willoughby. But he seems to know nothing really of value. He knows things about his status, how much he makes and whatnot, or his estates. But she's like, what are his passions? What is he like? And he's just I don't know.
This guy is not being a friend. He is not being a friend right now. You have set us up to believe that you know the tea on people.
Right.
And you are not being a friend right now.
He's bluffing. He's there for the tea, not to give the tea.
I think he's just on Colonel Brandon's side is what it is.
So at this point, Margaret, I think she ran out to keep a watch out for Willoughby. But then Colonel Brandon shows up. He's the first one to show up with beautiful flowers, and Marianne could care less. But then
she just hands them straight off to Eleanor to go put them in a vase someplace. Get them out of my face. Out.
Poor Colonel Brandon. So Sir John, being him, has no filter and tells the Colonel that Marianne is interested in John Willoughby. He just like, I sound so awkward. He just like flat out said it out loud. Like, no chill, no nothing.
Once again, not a friend.
Yeah.
He's just there for the drama. He's there for the mess.
Right?
He's there just to watch it crumble and fall.
He's there to stir the pot, man. Oh no. So Willoughby shows up with wildflowers. I mean, they're beautiful, but
they're cute.
Yeah, they're cute, but it's no Colonel Brandon flowers. And Marianne is just swooning over him.
He's got that dreamy hair and those dreamy eyes.
Yeah. Classic. So it eventually her ankle heals, and John and Marianne are just out and about flirting and flaunting their love for each other. At one point, he takes a piece of her hair.
This was a thing back then.
What?
I swear it was. Yep, because people used to keep like hair as lockets and like.
Yeah. I mean, I think
souvenirs.
You know what? I can see that for like military people who go off and they want something, but like this guy's what, like down the street?
I mean, for now.
Yeah,
clearly it goes away.
For now. Yeah.
For now.
Colonel Brandon ends up inviting everyone to a picnic on his estate. And at this picnic, they're introduced to Mr. and Mrs. Palmer. So that is played by Hugh. I forgot his last name. Hugh Laurie, who plays. The only thing I recognize him from is from House. Is that?
Yep.
And he's
in House.
Yeah.
And he's in Stuart Little.
I haven't seen Stuart Little.
He's the dad in Stuart Little.
What?
Yeah, he's the dad in Stuart Little.
Oh my gosh. I did not remember that. I mean, it's been like 50 million years since I've seen Stuart Little, but I do not remember him being there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And he's the same age as Emma Thompson.
Really? I mean, like, I know he looks younger, but I feel like he looks older than her.
I know. He's the same age as Emma Thompson, and Hugh Grant is actually a year younger than Emma Thompson.
Oh, okay. Fun facts. And
fun facts.
But yeah, he's like in House. He's like a grumpy dude grumpy. Overall. I know.
It's so fun.
He's just there for side commentary. That's his whole role.
It is. It truly.
Yeah.
Just snippy old man commentary.
So he meets, let's see, Mr. and Mrs. Palmer there, and Lucy, in which Lucy claims that she hadn't seen Mrs. Jennings in a while, which is why she's paying her a visit. But Miss Palmer, who's another gossipy, calls her out and says she's really there to meet Eleanor. Eleanor this, Mrs. Oh my gosh. What is her name? What is their last name? Starts with a D. I already forgot it.
Dashwood?
Dashwood. Mrs. Dashwood this and Mrs. Dashwood that. So basically she just throws her under the bus and calls her a total liar. Shortly after everyone arrives, a man with a message for the Colonel has this very dramatic entrance and the Colonel says he has to leave for London immediately. In which, again, we have no idea what it's for. Like,
right? I thought he was going back to war or something. I was like, what happened?
Like, or I thought it had something to do with the woman from his past. I was like, ooh, did something go down and we're going to hear about it later? But no, we hear nothing.
I mean, technically it did. It does have to do with her, which we'll find out later. But
true.
Not exactly in the same regard as you're talking about.
Yeah. So Willoughby, he's basically just talking shit about the poor Colonel. And then he proceeds to ask Marianne if he can speak with her alone because he has something to ask her. So she stays home from church so that way they can have their discussion. Meanwhile, the rest of the women return home, eager to see if Willoughby has proposed. But all they do is walk in to Marianne sobbing. Willoughby's still there, and he says that he must be off to London again immediately and does not know if or when he will be returning. So that's the end of it. We don't get more information as usual.
Nope. We don't get any context as to what the conversation was. We don't
Nope.
get anything. Like,
she just
done.
says, don't ask me questions. Don't ask me questions.
Yep. She's like, I'm not ready to talk about it. Bye.
Mrs. Dashwood and Eleanor question what could have caused this. But Eleanor suspects something sketch is going on with Willoughby. And then, like, one of my favorite scenes, all three of them, the mom, the youngest daughter, and Marianne, just go running sobbing to the rooms at one point.
I love that too. This is another one of those moments where I just cracked up laughing. Because so the mom's so upset because she was so hopeful that Marianne was going to get proposed to. And then so she goes and she cries. And then Margaret was sent to go fetch tea, but then Marianne wouldn't let her in to give her the tea. And so then she goes and she cries and hands Eleanor the tea. And then Eleanor just takes the tea and she sits down on the stairs and she's like, well, I got nothing else to do now.
She's the one that has to hold it together for everyone because everyone is just hysterical all the time. These are the most melodramatic women. The faces.
Being an oldest sibling, sometimes I know that feeling.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of older siblings could probably relate to that situation. So it's they're playing cards, it looks like, in the evening. And Lucy asks Eleanor if she could ask about Fanny's mother and ends up telling her that she's been secretly engaged with Edward. And
for 5 years. Yeah. For 5 years. And the reason why it's a secret is because she knows and he knows that his family will basically disown him because she's got absolutely no money to her name either.
Yeah, they will not approve. It's insanity. She tells her that she knew she could trust her with their secret because he thinks of her as a sister. So apparently he mentioned her, but I guess regarded her as a sister. So Eleanor sees that Lucy has the same exact handkerchief that Edward gave her. Meanwhile, the other ladies are being their nosy posies and demand to know what they're talking about. Mrs. Jennings literally walks up and demands it. I demand to know what you were discussing.
That's so funny. But to be fair, they weren't helping their case. They're like, I need to talk to you about something secret. And they paced in the same room as the nosy ass ladies.
Yeah, they never what are you doing? I don't know why they didn't leave the room because those houses are so massive. Why can't they just walk down there? They're basically flaunting it. They really asked for it.
They did. They did.
Oh, no. They lie and say they were talking about London when Mrs. Jennings says her and Charlotte, her daughter, decided they are going to bring Eleanor, Lucy, and Marianne to London to stay with them. Marianne is excited about the fact that she will see Willoughby and Eleanor will see Edward. The moment they arrive in London, Marianne immediately sends off letters to Willoughby. Someone does arrive at the house, and Marianne is convinced that it's Willoughby, but it ends up being the sweet, sweet Colonel.
And she wants nothing to do with
it. She literally leaves the room. She says, excuse me, Colonel, just walks away.
Poor Eleanor. She's like, I'm sorry about her.
Yeah. She's basically there to, I don't even know. So he's there to inquire about Marianne's and Willoughby's relationship. This guy is still pining over her.
I know.
He's like a sad little puppy at this point. Which, of course, Eleanor reconfirms that, they have feelings for one another.
She doesn't know anything beyond
that.
That's it. She just knows that they have feelings. She has no idea if they're engaged, if they're not engaged. She doesn't know anything else because nobody will say anything else.
Yeah.
Nobody will confirm nor deny without the approval of the Senate.
No one knows nothing. Marianne has yet to hear from Willoughby and is being a total nuisance to these poor servants. Apparently, she's sending letters day and middle of the night. Like these poor people. I think they complain at one point, and Mrs. Jennings is just like, stop it. Do your job. So these poor people. They all end up attending a ball where Edward's attendance is to be expected. Mrs. Jennings and Charlotte, the moment they arrive, are immediately on the hunt to find Fanny and, of course, Edward. But all they do, so they find Fanny, but the person that ended up showing up is Fanny's younger brother, Robert, who is a complete douche.
The second I saw him, I was like, he has a very punchable face.
He has douche face.
Like,
he didn't even have to open his mouth. And you already knew.
When he did, it was even worse. Yeah. Like, my goodness. This dude has like the most condescending like attitude I've ever heard.
Yeah, he does. He was perfect for that role, that poor guy.
He really was.
Poor Eleanor is forced to dance with Robert, where she ends up running into Willoughby. Marianne makes eye contact with him and shouts, "Willoughby!" And the entire room goes quiet, stares, and then as they just start gossiping. You hear all of them whispering and talking. Willoughby's acting very formal with her, and she asks him what's the matter. He lets her know that he has received her letters, but ends up excusing himself to rejoin his party. Marianne follows, and she ends up seeing him with another woman. These people end up looking at them with complete disgust, and I think they comment on like their outfits or something like that. And Marianne, being the melodramatic that she is, she acts as though she's about to faint at one point. Poor Eleanor literally has to like carry her.
All of them do. Like, basically, all the ladies have to leave with the exception of Lucy, who stays behind with
the douche. So Marianne ends up receiving a letter from Willoughby stating that he apologizes if he made her think that he had any feelings for her, and that he would like to return her lock of hair.
This is the most dry, dull letter I've ever heard. I'm pretty sure that IRS letters have more pizzazz to them.
Yes.
Like, my goodness.
It was very short, cut, and dry.
So dry. Even for Jane Austen's time period, dry.
Yeah. But it was probably supposed to be on purpose, just to make us think even less of this douche. And as Marianne is bawling, Mrs. Jennings comes in with the tea of all teas. She tells them that Willoughby is due to marry this other woman at the end of the month because essentially she has money. John Dee tells Franny, so these two are at like a tea or something like that. And he tells Franny that he feels bad for them and that they should have them stay over. But of course, Franny ain't going to have that. So she says that she already asked Lucy to stay over.
Which Robert gets excited about. He looks like he's in cahoots with the whole thing. By the way. He's just like, prim and proper.
Grand idea. Eleanor ends up sending for Colonel and asks him if he can take them home. Colonel ends up telling Eleanor about Willoughby's past in hopes that it'll help. I'm giving quotations, help Marianne. Apparently, his past lover had a child that he was supposed to take care of. And grew up, and apparently had a baby of her own who was abandoned by the father. We then find out that the father, in fact, was Mr. Willoughby himself. No. He also tells her that he was informed Mr. Willoughby did in fact intend to propose that day, but had it not been for the money. All for money. But what a stand-up guy. Like, he could have left them with the thought that he's just like a dirt piece of crap guy. But then I don't know. I thought it was very sweet and endearing of him to leave her with the fact that I guess he did intend on marrying her and that he did in fact have feelings. The bar is very low,
right? The bar is always low.
It is very low. The bar is
always low. I mean, my general like life advice is men are trash. So
oh no.
That is how low the bar is.
Yep. Oh no. So let's see. Lucy ends up visiting Eleanor to tell her that she finally met Edward's mother. Then Edward shows up. So before he could even get a sentence in, Eleanor lets him know that Lucy is there, which of course he was not expecting his fiance of 5 years to be there.
I love just the looks that are exchanged.
I couldn't even put them into words. Like,
It's so good
Right.
because as Marianne comes in, she like hears Edward, and Edward's like, "What's wrong with your face?" But beyond that, she's
Yeah.
like, "No, don't worry about me. Look at Eleanor. Eleanor's
Yep.
beautiful. Look at Eleanor." And then Lucy is picking up on cues.
Yes, yeah. She ain't stupid. I paused it during this scene, and Lucy is just giving this like glaring side eye because she knows girl ain't stupid. So yeah, Marianne is just ecstatic to see Edward. She's over here trying to nudge him towards Eleanor and Eleanor towards him. But again, he says, like all men do, he needs to leave immediately. Which, of course, Lucy ends up asking him to escort her home.
Yeah. The only person who was completely oblivious in that whole scenario was Marianne.
Yep.
I don't know why. She was just completely oblivious. But
yeah, she didn't pick up on the cues. Yeah.
Nope.
She ain't the smartest cookie. That's okay. So then we see, so at this point, Lucy is staying with Franny and John, and they're doing, looks like maybe some sort of crafts with feathers. And they're talking about marriage. Franny tells her that she thinks that, Franny ends up telling her that she's, a nice young woman, and that regardless of having nothing, that she thinks she's going to marry well. In which Lucy decides to tell Franny about the engagement. And she just goes completely batshit on her. Like, completely ape shit. She, like, feathers are flying. I think she ends up on the floor at one point.
She's just beating her with, like, whatever pillow or what have you she has. She's, like, slapping her around.
Yeah.
Oh, but she has my favorite line. She's like, "You're a viper in my bosom."
I did not hear that.
The second that she, like, hears it, she starts to stand up, she's just like, "Fine."
Oh, gosh. So then, of course, Mrs. Jennings is literally running down the street to share the news with Eleanor and Marianne. Marianne tells her that Edward loves her and that it's not fair. And for a moment, we actually see Eleanor showing emotion because she's very reserved and she just does not, she's not someone who has, what is the saying? Show your heart on your sleeve, or what is it?
Oh, wear your heart on your sleeve.
She's not someone who wears her heart on his sleeve. So Colonel tells Eleanor that he heard Edward will lose his fortune and that he wants to offer him a proposal that he wants for her to deliver. Edward and Eleanor meet so she can give him the message of offering him the parish on his estate so he and Lucy can marry. Edward tells Eleanor that her friendship has been the most important in his life and asks her to forgive him. Eleanor says the most important thing is that he honors his promises. They arrive home and Marianne decides to go for a walk. It begins to storm and Eleanor loses sight of Marianne, who is on a hillside overlooking Willoughby's new estate. I think his new estate is to who he marries, correct?
I thought it was his old estate. But
is it his old estate? With his new wife.
Yeah.
Point is, yeah, it's his home with his wife. Marianne is returned home being carried by the colonel because everyone's freaking out and they go to find her. Also, she has like this meltdown on the hillside where she's just like, oh, she recites like the poem that they first read together when they first met. And she's, Willoughby. It's just very melodramatic and very her.
I really thought that this was going to be the end of Romeo and Juliet moment where she was going to take her life at the end of this like hill that she was standing on. Like, that's where I thought that this was going, and that is not where this went, obviously. But
no. Well, she was a fan of Romeo and Juliet, so I would have
exactly. Yeah. I was like, why bring that up in the beginning if you're not going to end up doing that?
Oh goodness, it's all very dramatic. Marianne ends up catching a fever, and the family has to leave due to risk of it spreading. So she's staying with, I think, Mrs. Jennings' daughter, I believe. Daughter and husband, and their baby, too. So the doctor is like, we think you should get the baby out of here. And she just freaks and calls for the nanny and runs off.
What I love about this is that, so Marianne and Eleanor are staying at their house, and they're basically kicking them out of their house. And Hugh Laurie's character is like, "Is there anything else we can do for you?" And
I know, he was so nice. She's like, "You've given us everything, literally."
It's like, you've given us your house to stay in while we have to kick you out due to illness.
Oh, goodness. So, of course, the Colonel stays behind, and he begs Eleanor to give him something to do for them, as though he hasn't done enough. Again.
I think that's one of those things, like, I do this a lot too, like, whenever something's wrong and, like, there's nothing I can do to, like, make it better, my anxiety kicks into overdrive.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I just need something to do. I need to do something to make the situation better. And so I really related to that part.
Yeah. Distractions are good. Let's see. She tells him to bring Mrs. Dashwood to be with them because she would love to have her mother. The doctor tells Eleanor she's not doing well and to prepare herself. Of course, Eleanor breaks down and begs Marianne at her bedside to get better. Next morning, happy news, Marianne wakes up, and of course the Colonel is there, and she actually acknowledges him and thanks him. Next, we see Marianne, now that she's all better, Marianne and Colonel are outside reading poetry together. The servant informs all of the women they're finally back at their house with Mrs. Dashwood. The servant informs all of the women that Mr. Ferris and Lucy have married, and it was told by Lucy herself. Then we see that Marianne is gifted a piano by the Colonel. So incredibly sweet.
Like, it's like an IKEA piano. Like, they have to put it together. Like,
wait, they did? I thought, what? Who put it together then? The servants?
Yeah, I think so. Because I swear there were like pieces of wood, and like they had to bring it in like different pieces, and like,
I don't remember that. Okay, I completely missed that then. An IKEA piano.
Yeah, an IKEA piano. Like they kept trying to bring in like more pieces of wood and planks of wood, and just had to keep bringing different trips in order to put it all together.
Oh, okay. Well, you made her work for it then. So then a man on a horse approaches, and they think that it's the Colonel, but it ends up being Edward. He tells them Lucy actually ended up marrying his douchey younger brother, Robert. And Eleanor I think this is another one of my favorite scenes. She just starts sobbing. Just
uncontrollably.
And everybody's like, I think Marianne and the mom are like, let's give them a moment. And it's cute that Hugh Grant's character is just kind of like awkwardly there.
Like, what do I do now?
But he just continues. He just continues. He just then proceeds to profess his love for her as she's just sobbing. Like, I don't think she's even looking at him. She's just sitting on something, looking down, and just
She's like, I've kept all of these emotions in for like a year now, and I just need to release it all now.
I know. I love how in like a classic rom-com, she's not sobbing pretty.
Right.
As though like they would normally have them do, like cry pretty. She's like ugly crying, like relatably ugly crying.
And at the perfectly wrong moment, like just when you need to release it because your body's just like, all right, we can't take this anymore. Yep. It needs to go somewhere.
Yeah. And it just all came out like vomit.
Is tear vomiting a thing? Like,
I think it is. Let's say it is. So like I said, the ladies went outside to give them privacy. But Margaret, the little sister, ends up climbing up into the tree to give her mom and sister a play-by-play of Edward proposing.
I love that. She's like, he's down on his knee.
Yes. Oh, no. So then we see there's a wedding celebration, and it ends up being the Colonel's and Marianne's. They're the bride and groom. And we see Willoughby is watching from afar.
I'm not going to lie. I had a moment where I saw him there, and I was like, shoulda, coulda, woulda, man, but shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Exactly. He chose the money over love. And it ends odd. This is a weird ending. I did not expect this ending. It ends with the Colonel tossing coins from their carriage. Was that like a tradition back in the day? Was he just trying to be generous? Like, I thought that was very odd, and that's how it ends. The
I
end.
couldn't tell you. All I know is that that is a recipe for somebody to lose an eye. Like, he's just throwing it up in the air.
Marianne's just sitting there, and he's just like tossing it off. I'm like, okay.
And I honestly, so we see Marianne and the Colonel come out, right? And then immediately follows is Eleanor and Edward. I was like, what's his name again? And I thought for a second that it was a double wedding, and then I realized that they were not in wedding attire, and I was like, oh wait, hold on, never mind.
I don't think Marianne's character would have allowed for that. She doesn't seem like the kind that would want to share the spotlight.
She's like, bitch, please.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
So does it pass the Bechdel test? Yes, it does. That would be very sad if it didn't.
I know, right?
The main leads being women. But fortunately, it does.
All right. Shall we get into the trivia then?
Yes. So, let's see. So director Ang Lee originally was considering Kate Winslet only for a smaller part in the movie. So for the part of Lucy Steele. Even though she did really want to play Marianne. But apparently when Winslet arrived at her audition, she pretended that her agent had sent her to read for Marianne. And her reading won her the role. So it worked out in her favor. I feel like that might piss people off, though. You have to be really good in order to pull that off.
Yeah.
Because if not, then they would be like, why are you wasting my time? Why are you? That was a very bold move on her end.
Well, to be fair, I think she ultimately did deserve it, honestly, because she does pull off Marianne extremely well. And she would have been wasted on Lucy, honestly.
Yes, her talents would have been wasted on Lucy. Also, but I think this was before Titanic, right?
Yeah. No, this is after Titanic, because Titanic was 1994. Let's see.
What?
Titanic? No, I'm sorry. You're right. It's before Titanic, because Titanic is 1997. Yeah. This was 1995.
So she played the spoiled little brat very well. So I wonder if that had any influence on her getting the role for Rose in Titanic.
Possibly. Especially since she was playing a 17-year-old in Titanic. And here, like I said, to me, she looks like 15.
She looked really young. Yeah. So while working on the script, Emma Thompson's computer developed a problem, apparently. She was unable to locate the file for the script. Can you imagine?
Oh my gosh.
She ended up taking the computer to someone named Stephen Fry, an expert in Apple computers, who after 7 hours finally managed to retrieve the script. So I guess in the credits, Stephen is thanked by the producers. So.
Oh my gosh. I love Stephen Fry. So Stephen Fry, he's in, you've watched Bones, right?
Yes.
So did you watch After Sweets Dies?
I don't know any of the characters by their names. Sweets it was a long time ago when I watched it, and I never rewatched it ever since.
So Sweets is the psychologist who works with Bones and Booth. And so he dies later on in the series. And Stephen Fry is the psychologist who comes in afterwards and works with Booth. But he's also in a lot of other things. Like he's in The Dropout. Did you watch Sherlock Holmes with Robert Downey Jr.? And so he's Holmes's brother in that movie.
His brother?
I think it's in the second one specifically. Shadow Games.
Okay. I was not the biggest fan of those. So I don't.
I love them. But that's because I'm obsessed with Jude Law.
I was going to say, I thought Jude Law played his brother in that.
No. Jude Law plays Watson.
They're not brothers?
Watson is not his brother. No.
Oh, okay. I thought they were.
Partner in crime, essentially.
Oh, okay. Yeah, then I have no idea who his brother was. Okay. Alrighty. And then, so apparently feeling self-conscious about herself, Kate Winslet was skipping meals in an attempt to lose weight. Emma Thompson noticed, and she told her that losing weight is absolutely wrong for the part and absolutely wrong for you. Thompson gave Winslet a copy of The Beauty Myth, encouraging her to embrace her body. Winslet has since credited Thompson as having a major influence in her life, and the two are extremely close friends to this day.
Oh, I love that.
I love that too. I've noticed that in a lot of Emma Thompson's interviews, she's very body positive, very outspoken about the topic, and I love it. I think she gives really good advice.
Watch more of her interviews and find that book. My God.
I know. Like, I need that book. Can you imagine
can we link that?
Like, or can you believe that back in the day they used to try to convince us that Kate Winslet was fat?
Right? Oh my gosh.
Isn't that just...
Or Brittany Murphy even. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Like that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, then when you think of like how this impacted Kate Winslet when she does Titanic, speaking of which, like when she does the sitting in for the drawing scene.
Yeah. Like, the nude scene. Can you imagine what it did for her? Oh man.
It's wild.
I know.
Oh, we love that so much.
Me too.
So how did you like this movie?
I think the first time I watched it, it did annoy me a little bit. Because I don't know if it was so much Marianne's character. It was just... But the second time I watched it, I did enjoy it more. I was kind of hoping that neither of them would end up in relationships. I don't know. I feel like that would have been like a nice touch for the time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They both end up single and happy still. But
yeah. I think that's just kind of how I am these days. Like that's my perspective these days. Like now I'm just like ready to see movies and like TV shows where women don't need to fall in love with men or have spouses or like partners in order to be, you know, fulfilled people. Like I want to see examples of people who are, you know, fulfilled just by being themselves. So that's kind of my clouded judgment, if you will. But I think for the movie itself and for the time frame, and because this is an adaptation on Jane Austen, and when you think of the time frame of Jane Austen, I think it's a very cute movie. I think it's very fun to watch. It's very humorous. The acting is incredible. I
feel bummed that I never saw this before I saw Harry Potter. Because now watching it, I can't unsee Professor Snape. Snape? Did I say Snape? I can't not see Professor Snape now. But I still really enjoyed it. But for sure, I agree with you that I would love to see more representation in more films where women's or even men's happy endings can be without, you know, a romantic partner.
Right. Yeah. Even just like about friendship. Having that be a plot point or just having that be what's important in life, you know? So,
different kinds of relationships that aren't just romantic relationships.
Yeah. Because that's not the only thing that keeps us going.
You know? God. Yeah.
Can you imagine having to rely on only one person for everything you ever needed?
No. I can't.
No, thank you.
No offense to our partners.
Exactly. I will say on the downside, this was an extremely white movie. That lacked a lot of diversity. So
but if you think about when it was made in the 90s, like even today, I still feel like film, like movies, still lacks a lot of diversity. I mean, television and, you know, streaming service shows are starting to get a lot better, but movies themselves still got a long way to go.
Yep. Still got some ways. Yeah. But other than that, cool. But yeah, I think I would give this probably like a 7 out of 10.
I agree. I think a 7 out of 10 is a good rating. Is this the first time we agree on a rating? I think it is.
I'd have to go back and double check, but yeah, I think
Maybe,
so.
yeah.
But I think it was just fun.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Caffeinated Flicks. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at Caffeinated Flicks Pod or email us at caffeinatedflicks@gmail.com.
And just like every other podcast, we would love it if you could follow us in your podcasting app and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us get better. And if you're enjoying us so far, please tell a friend.
We'll catch you on the flick side.